Look around you right now. Obesity affects nearly 1 in 3 adults in the modern world. Gyms are a $1 billion industry. Diet books outsell almost every other category on the planet. We have personal trainers, calorie counting apps, meal prep services, and entire TV shows dedicated to helping people lose weight. And yet, for the vast majority of human history, roughly 300,000 years, there was no obesity. None. Not a single prehistoric human fossil shows the bone density changes, joint damage, or skeletal markers we associate with chronic excess body fat. Our ancestors were lean, strong, and physically capable in ways that would embarrass most modern athletes. They didn't have gyms, they didn't have protein shakes, they didn't have nutritionists. So what did they have that we don't? The answer isn't a diet plan, it isn't a workout routine, and it's going to make you deeply uncomfortable about the way you live your life today. Let's start with the most obvious difference, but also the most misunderstood one. Prehistoric humans were not athletes. They didn't exercise, at least not in the way we think about exercise. They didn't carve out 45 minutes in the morning to go for a run and then sit at a desk for 9 hours. They simply never stopped moving. Hunter-gatherer studies, which look at modern tribes still living the ancient way, like the Hadza people of Tanzania, show that these groups walk between 12 and 15 kilometers every single day, not as a fitness goal, just to survive, to find food, to carry water, to scout for danger, to relocate camp. And it wasn't just walking, it was climbing, squatting, lifting, carrying, throwing, swimming, and digging. Their bodies were engaged constantly in low to moderate physical activity from sunrise to sunset. Here's what makes this so different from what we do today. Modern science has discovered that it isn't just the absence of exercise that makes us fat, it's the presence of prolonged sitting. Sitting for more than a few hours a day shuts down a critical enzyme called lipoprotein lipase, which is responsible for burning fat in your muscles. When it goes dormant, fat processing basically stops. Prehistoric humans never sat still long enough for that switch to flip off. Their baseline activity wasn't a choice, it was survival, and their bodies reflected it. Now here's where things get really interesting. The modern obesity crisis isn't just about movement, it's deeply tied to food. And the food prehistoric humans ate looked almost nothing like what you had for breakfast this morning. Think about what a hunter-gatherer actually ate. On a good day, wild game, lean muscle meat with very little saturated fat, fish from rivers and coasts, eggs when they could find them, fruits, but not the giant sugar-bred fruits we have today, and the small, tart, fibrous wild fruits that were available only a few weeks a year. Roots, tubers, leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and insects. No refined sugar, no processed grains, no vegetable oils, no food designed in a laboratory to be impossible to stop eating. This is crucial. Modern processed food is engineered. Food scientists working for major corporations spend billions of dollars figuring out what they call the bliss point, the precise combination of sugar, fat, and salt that overwhelms your brain's satiety signals and makes you keep eating even when you're full. Your brain was not built to resist this. No human brain was, because for 300,000 years, no such food existed. Our prehistoric ancestors ate foods that were hard to chew, high in fiber, and nutritionally dense but calorically modest. Their brains got the signal to stop eating because the food was real. Modern food is specifically designed so that signal never comes. There's another factor here that almost nobody talks about: variety. Studies of hunter-gatherer diets show that these groups ate up to 600 different species of plants, animals, and fungi across a year. 600! The average modern person in a Western country eats fewer than 20. That variety didn't just prevent boredom, it created one of the most diverse gut microbiomes in human history. And we now know that gut health is directly tied to metabolism, inflammation, and the body's ability to regulate fat storage. Prehistoric humans had guts full of microbial species that most modern people have never even had. Many of those species are now functionally extinct in the Western world. Their gut was doing metabolic work we can barely imagine. Here's something that sounds brutal, but is actually the key to everything. Prehistoric humans were not always well fed. Far from it. They lived in cycles of feast and famine that could last days or even weeks. A successful hunt meant everyone ate well. A failed hunt meant everyone went hungry. A harsh winter meant rationing whatever was left, and their bodies were absolutely built for this. When food was scarce, their metabolism shifted into a fat-burning state called ketosis. Their bodies efficiently burned stored fat for fuel, keeping them sharp, mobile, and functional even when they hadn't eaten for 2 or 3 days. This wasn't a crisis. It was the system working exactly as designed. The problem is that in the modern world, that famine phase never comes. We eat 3 meals a day plus snacks every single day, with almost no interruption for our entire lives. Our insulin levels never drop low enough for fat burning to kick in properly. The metabolic machinery that kept our ancestors lean sits idle, overpowered by a constant flood of calories. Intermittent fasting, which is currently one of the most researched dietary strategies in the world, is essentially just an attempt to recreate what our ancestors experienced involuntarily every few days. We are paying nutritionists to give us back something evolution already built into us for free. There's a third factor that almost never gets mentioned when people talk about prehistoric fitness, and it might be the most important one: stress. Prehistoric humans had genuinely terrifying lives. They faced predators, starvation, violence, disease, and the constant uncertainty of survival. So you might assume they were massively stressed, and therefore fat, since we know stress causes weight gain. But here's the key distinction. Their stress was acute, short, sharp, and physical. A lion appears, cortisol spikes, heart rate explodes, they run or fight or climb a tree, the threat passes, and the stress hormones clear out of their system within minutes. Modern stress is chronic, low-grade, constant, and almost entirely psychological. A difficult boss, a mounting credit card bill, a traffic jam that makes you late. These are not life or death threats, but your body doesn't know that. It releases the same cortisol response as if a lion just appeared, except the threat never goes away. Cortisol stays elevated for hours, days, weeks, and chronically elevated cortisol does 3 things that directly cause obesity. It increases appetite, specifically cravings for high-fat, high-sugar foods. It promotes fat storage, particularly around the abdomen, and it disrupts sleep, which then makes the whole cycle worse. Sleep is where this really comes together. Prehistoric humans slept in sync with the sun. When it got dark, the body started producing melatonin. When the sun rose, it stopped. They slept deeply, fully, and in alignment with a circadian rhythm that hadn't changed in millions of years. Research now shows that even a single week of sleeping less than 6 hours a night increases ghrelin, the hunger hormone, by over 28%, while suppressing leptin, the hormone that tells you you're full. Bad sleep makes you eat more, and it makes you crave the worst possible foods. Prehistoric humans had no artificial light, no screens blasting blue light into their eyes at midnight, no Netflix keeping them up until 2 a.m. They slept when it was dark. They woke when it was light. And their hormonal system, which governs hunger, fat storage, and metabolism, ran like a perfectly calibrated machine. Well, let's put this all together. Prehistoric humans were lean not because they were special, not because they had better willpower or stronger discipline or superior genetics. They were lean because every single system in their environment supported a lean body. They moved constantly because stillness meant death. They ate real food because fake food didn't exist. They fasted regularly because food wasn't always available. Their stress was real but brief. Their sleep was deep and perfectly timed. We have replaced every single one of those conditions with the opposite. We sit for most of our waking hours. We eat food engineered to be addictive. We are never more than 10 feet from a calorie. We carry chronic psychological stress that never fully resolves. And we bathe ourselves in artificial light until midnight and wonder why we can't sleep. The obesity epidemic isn't a failure of willpower. It isn't a character flaw. It's what happens when a body built for 300,000 years of one environment gets dropped into a completely different one in the space of 2 or 3 generations. Evolution cannot keep up with what we've built. The Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups on Earth, have almost zero obesity, zero type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular health that shames most 25-year-olds in the developed world. They aren't trying. They're just living the way humans lived for almost our entire existence. We built a civilization specifically to escape the hardships of that life: the cold, the hunger, the danger, the exhaustion. And in doing so, we accidentally removed the very pressures that kept us healthy. The gym exists to simulate the life we engineered ourselves out of. The diet industry exists to sell back the food scarcity we eliminated. The wellness industry exists to recreate the sleep and stress management that our ancestors got automatically. We solved the problems of prehistoric life so completely that we created a new set of problems we don't yet know how to solve. For 300,000 years, the human body was shaped by a world that demanded everything from it. Every calorie had to be earned. Every meal could be the last. Every night of sleep was stolen from the darkness. And the body that emerged from all of that was extraordinary, lean, resilient, and almost impossibly capable. We are that body. Every one of us right now carries that same hardware, the same metabolic machinery, the same fat-burning systems, the same circadian rhythms. We just stopped running the software it was built for. And in a world where the average person will spend 9 hours a day sitting, eat 73% of their calories from ultra-processed food, and sleep less than 7 hours a night, it's worth asking a question that our ancestors never had to. What are we actually doing to ourselves?